He's one of the best high school basketball players in the country, and he just committed to play at Oklahoma State. Jalen Montonati is about to start his senior season at Owasso High School, and he's already a big name in Oklahoma and beyond. Jalen's dad, Brian Montonati, is his coach at Owasso, and Brian also wore the orange and black at OSU back in his playing days, helping the Cowboys get all the way to the Elite Eight back in 2000. On this week's new episode of One More Thing, I talked to the Montonatis about what led Jalen to pick the Pokes, what it's like to navigate the pressure of being a top national recruit, and how the college sports world is changing with NIL and the transfer portal. This is One More Thing with Nathan Thompson. All right, we have the Montonatis here. Thanks for joining us on One More Thing.
Appreciate you guys.
Now, obviously, the big news, you've been a big-time basketball player here for several years that people have known about, and you finally made your decision. You're going to Oklahoma State, where your dad went. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of talk us through why it's the right fit for you? What went into your decision?
Yeah, I think just like overlooking it with my family and just going through the whole process and talking with the coaching staff and just like the amount of love that I got from, the coaching staff and to the fan base really was just overwhelming. And, it kind of just felt like home. They poured a lot of time and energy into me. So towards the end of the process, it kind of made it an easy decision for me.
So it's easy at the very last second, but through the process, were there ups and downs with where you were going to go?
Yeah, definitely. It was a long process. I've been really getting recruited since my freshman year of high school. So just getting able to meet a bunch of, coaches, coaching staffs, and just building relationships with a lot of coaches throughout the process really made it a tough decision and definitely a crazy process.
Now, Brian, Jalen obviously grew up an OSU fan because you played there and you guys went to the Elite Eight when you were there. What was it like watching this process for him and then ultimately choosing the school that you went to?
It was a process, because I tried to stay out of it as much as possible with the Oklahoma State side. I didn't want to feel like I was influencing him to go there or anything like that. So it was a lot of just, helping him through the process of, what he was looking for, helping him understand what questions that he needed to ask. You can kind of tell going through the recruiting process of who really wants you, who's important to you, and those things. And that's what we did as a family is we just kept reiterating to him is like, you got to think about the guys that put the most time and energy in you, what that looks like in your decision.
Obviously, you weren't trying to influence him to go to OSU or go to Stillwater, but whenever he came to that decision himself, what did that feel like emotionally for you?
It was. I remember we were sitting down as a family and we were talking about it, and he said, "Yeah, I'm ready to commit." A lot of emotions. I mean, he grew up there. He had a good relationship with Coach Sutton back in the day when he was really young. It's just, playing there. His moms went there. The program has struggled the last few years, and I know he wants to be a part of turning around and getting it back to the NCAA tournament. So there's a lot of things that played in that factor that made it emotional.
Jalen, I don't know how your dad reacted when he told him in private, but when you had the news conference the other day, I mean, he was crying whenever you were announcing OSU. What was it like to see your dad that emotional about it?
I kind of expected it. Whenever I first told him, he cried too. So, but yeah, I think just like that kind of just like shows you, how loyal he is to Oklahoma State and, how much it means to him. And, he told me how much that program has done for him throughout his life after basketball and, the opportunities that he's got because he, put on that jersey. So, yeah, it was definitely a really cool moment.
Yeah. As a son who loves his dad, to see him react like that, how did that feel for you?
It was crazy. He's probably the only one who knows how much, like, time I really spend in the gym. He knows how hard I work at it. So, just to, have a chance to go play at the next level, especially a Power 4 program, I know a lot of emotions are, running through him. So, yeah.
Now, Brian, obviously, you know what it takes to play at the college level. You've been his head coach for several years. Was there a moment, can you think of a moment when you're watching him play as he was a younger kid, like, oh, he's going to be good?
I mean, you always hope and dream. But at the same time, it was probably not until his 7th, 8th grade year where I was like, okay, he's a little different. He's going to have an opportunity. But, we just kept the whole thing, the main thing was work and getting him better. That's been the whole process with this deal. And, he understands going in what the college landscape looks like, for freshmen now. We've got a lot of work that we've got to put in between now and next year. But it was, he's always, the thing that separated Jalen is, one thing is his work ethic. He's always in the gym. Like, he never takes days off. He spends countless hours in the gym working on his craft. And, he's seen the fruits of his labor pay off. And the attention that he's gotten and where he's at as a basketball player, it gets back to the foundation of who he is as a person and his work ethic.
And talking about OSU, it's not often that you have a father-son duo playing at the same college. You made your mark there as far as going to the Elite Eight. Is it special, maybe having that OSU legacy from generation to generation?
It is, but there's also a little pressure to it too, because not pressure, but it's like, this is Jalen's story, right? Like, we're two completely different players. He's a heck of a lot better player than I was. So it's not like he's got to live up to me or do any of that stuff. This is his story. This is, they wanted him. I remember when Coach Lutz told him this, and Jalen probably can tell you, like, he said, I'm not recruiting you because your dad played here. I don't care that your dad played here. He's like, this is why we're recruiting you. So this is his story. We're just fortunate as a family that he's going to be an hour and 20 minutes away from us, where his sister's at right now. We can see every game. He can get home on breaks and stuff like that. So that's the benefit of this also.
Just a quick aside here. He says you're a lot better. What age do you remember when you beat him on a game of 101 or
something? I don't know. After his playing days, like, he kind of started to break down like really early. So like, I probably could beat him like in 5th grade just because he couldn't move. So
I don't. But when you get paid to play, you play as long as I did. You don't want to play anymore.
And then, what are you most excited about playing at OSU, playing at Gallagher-Iba, this historic venue and all that?
I'm just excited to play probably, in the best conference, in NCAA, the Big 12. You get to play the Houstons, the Kansases, the Texas Techs. Like, every night you're going to be facing, the best of the best. I remember when GIA, is one of the, like, loudest arenas, and not only in the Big 12, but the nation. So just trying to rebuild that, back to capacity. What Coach Lutz is doing right now, I think it'll get there. So just playing in front of a crowd, that loves you and, knows who you are ever since a young age is going to be really cool.
What's your first memory of Gallagher-Iba Arena?
Oh, gosh. I probably, it was young. Like, probably definitely, like, maybe 3rd grade, just going up there and watching a game with my family and, talking with Coach Sutton. Just building the relationships with everybody there.
That had to play a factor in it, because when you were a kid growing up, this is someplace you dreamed of playing.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. I remember, whenever he would be practicing and coaching, I'd just be on one of the side goals, just imagining me in an OSU jersey playing against, a Kansas or, a Texas. So just kind of growing up, with the imagination of how good you want to be, and, you in that OSU jersey, to see it come true is definitely a surreal feeling.
And Brian, obviously, he still has one more season of high school basketball, but have you already started talking, and maybe you've been doing this for years, about how you deal with the pressure of playing in a Big 12, or a lot of people call the best conference in college basketball, and how you deal with that?
It's part of the maturation of him as a player in person. He's always played at the highest level. Summertime he plays EYBL. He's been part of USA basketball. He has international experience. So he's played against the best of the best, but now you're going into a completely different setting where you're playing against grown men, right? And one of the toughest conferences in the country. So we've got a lot of work to do, but to get him to that standpoint. But there's a plan for him, next year, and he's got two things he does really well. He's really skilled, and he shoots the ball extremely well. So when you can do those two things, that kind of makes up for you being a little bit younger, competing against older guys.
Now you weren't a high school basketball coach by trade before he started. He got up there to that level. Why did you decide to go be the head coach of OSU?
I've always wanted to do it, even when I retired from playing. I remember having talks with Coach Sutton. You know, I had a bug in me that wanted to do it, and I went into other endeavors and did that, and but there was a calling. It just kept creeping back to me, and when the opportunity, for me to take over the WASO program was there, I jumped all in. I didn't know Jalen was probably third or fourth grade at the time. I knew he was talented. I didn't know he was going to turn into what he did, but at the same time, we've had really good teams over the last few years leading up to this. So it's been something. It's been rewarding. It's been fun. I knew I could do it, but you've got to have great players and great support system around you, which we do in Owasso.
Jalen, what's it like for you having your dad as the head coach? Obviously, he's your dad off the court and out of the gym, but he's the head coach. Is it hard to separate the two, or what's the relationship like there?
No, it's not really hard to separate the two. I know, like on the court, he expects a lot out of me, probably more than others, but he knows, the type of player that I am and that I want to become. So, every day on the court, he pushes me, to my limit and, tries to get the best out of me every single day, as a player and as a leader of the team. So, but it's not hard to, separate the two. I know on the court, I know what it is. And, off the court, we just talk about really anything.
Not being the head coach when your son's on the team, I'm sure a lot of people think, oh, he gives them preferential treatment. But in reality, most of the case at this level, it's the opposite, right? You treat him harder.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like, it comes with the territory, right? Like, oh, he is where he is because of his dad. That's the furthest thing from the truth. Jalen is who he is because of who he is and his work ethic. He's a heck of a player. We do have battles. It's not easy coaching your son. Like I've been told, there's two. You want two aspects: either he can't play or he's got to be really good. Mm-hmm. I'm fortunate enough to have a son that's really good. But he has lofty, high expectations, and we both know that. We know what his goals are. I coach him hard. Like he said, there's a high expectation that he has and that I have for himself and our program. So it's been fun. It's been rewarding. There's challenges at time with it, but man, it's been the most unbelievable thing as far as being able to coach him and watch him grow over these last few years. And with him being able to continue to go to Oklahoma State, it's been kind of a dream come true.
There's got to be times when you guys are butting heads on the court.
Oh yeah, all the time.
You're like, Dad didn't know what he's talking about, or he's not listening to you. How do you manage that whenever you guys get home?
It kind of just like fizzles out. Like, you go through your battles on the court and then you just kind of let it be. And then, whenever you see each other again, you kind of give each other an eye, but it kind of just dies out after that. Like what's on the court stays on the court usually. So
yeah, we try, like that's the one thing is we've never really had any conversations, off the court at home or anything about like, hey, you should have done this or you should have done that. Even when we do have an issue or there's something going on, I pull him into our office, So there's no special treatment for him or anything like that. But the one thing is like I try to separate, coach and father as best as possible. When I get home, people complain about coaches. They complain about me all the time. So I go home to Jalen. I'm dad. I'm like, hey, your coach is crazy. He should let you shoot more and all that other stuff. But no, it's been good, man. It's been rewarding, and I'm just happy to see him continue to be able to play at the next level.
Let's go kind of big picture and just the recruiting world we're living in and the transfer portal and everything. It's a different era. 30 years ago when you were getting recruited, what stood out in this process, especially compared to what you went through in the 90s?
The biggest thing, man, is just the way kids are recruited now. Relationships, they're not as valued anymore as they were before NIL and all this goes on, right? There's so many different factors that play into it. The transfer portal, NIL, agents, just a bunch of things that you've got to kind of shift through to really find out, what the program is offering you and if it's the right place. Money's a big deal now in athletics. And then, you go into this, he's an 18-year-old kid next year, and the team that we're going to, you're hoping that 5 or 6 of those guys are there next year. Mm-hmm. You don't know that. Excuse me. Nothing is guaranteed, but it's just the atmosphere that we're in now. the way the recruiting too is done is, it's like you may not hear from a school for 2 or 3 months, and then they don't get a player, or maybe somebody's priced out of their level of NIL, or they're calling you back and saying, hey, we can offer you this. And the one thing that we try to help Jalen with is, like, relationships to us matter. They're still extremely important. The NIL portion of it is really nice, but the relationship foundation is still a key component in this whole thing. And I believe that's what separated Oklahoma State. It's not because I played there or his mom goes there, or he's the best player in the state of Oklahoma. They have a true, genuine relationship with Jalen, not just Coach Lutz, but the entire staff. KP has done a heck of a job recruiting him. That's the one thing that I felt like separated Oklahoma State over the course of what goes on in this madness world of recruiting.
And for people who don't know, when we're talking about NIL, for someone at Jalen's level, we're talking easily into 6 figures. This is big time money. It could be life-changing money for a lot of people. Was it hard for you to, separate? I don't know if OSU was the one offering the most or not, but was it hard to separate, this is the most money, but this is the best place?
No, I mean, to be honest, I grew up just loving the game for what it is. I never really even thought about the money aspect of things. I let my management team that I'm with and my dad kind of talk through that with the coach and staff and whatnot. I'm not really too involved with all of it, so it's not really a big deal to me.
So you just tried to silo that off into a different thing, and in your process, it's all about basketball and the best fit.
Yeah, 100%. I think the biggest thing for me was just the relationships that I built with the whole coaching staff at OSU, and how much they cared about me was the biggest thing. So I just felt like it was the best fit for me on and off the court, regardless of the money situation.
But the money's nice. I'm sure it's nice to have him off your payroll, right?
He's going to be off my payroll, so I'm extremely happy. I'm extremely happy that he gets to pay for his own stuff going forward.
That is great. But when you're off in the summer circuit and stuff like that, is that stuff a lot of players are talking about? They offered me this other school offered me this, trying to figure out and weighing that decision based on money?
Yeah, 100%. I was just talking with a couple of our guys, and just talking with them about schools recruiting them and whatnot. And I'm like, what are you thinking? And they're just it just depends on the money situation, which is kind of crazy. Just kind of the world that we live in today. But yeah, it's definitely a crazy situation with, the whole NIL thing, but it's definitely a big thing that, guys are talking about.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there don't begrudge people for that's what you do in the professional world,
Absolutely.
Right? You take the best opportunity, the best salary, and the other things. And for you, the other things are more important than the money.
Yeah, 100%, definitely.
But now you're also a head coach, so you see it from the other perspective. Do you like where the game is right now and how it's changed with NIL and the transfer portal, or where do you stand?
Nathan, I just had this conversation the other day with somebody. In the college world, it's a little different, but it's, you got to look at something. For instance, if you're a head coach, you kind of lose a lot of power because of the transfer portal. Rightfully so, these guys should be getting compensated somehow. I'm not against that at all. But also, when you got guys that can come in and leave and go somewhere else because they go through adversity or they don't like it or whatever, maybe one time, but you got guys transferring 3 and 4 times, right? And then you have the flip side of it that people don't know, people are still being contacted, kids are still being contacted, or their families are being contacted from different schools saying, hey, we can give you more money over here, right? And then you throw in the factor too now, if you have a high influential booster or donor that doesn't like the head coach, he goes to the president or AD, says, hey, I'm out. I'm not giving any more money to the university unless you make a coaching change, right? We haven't even talked about that stuff yet, right? So to be a coach now in today's world, it's a lot different, and rightfully so. I'm all for the kids being paid, but I think there's got to be some kind of regulation on the transfer portal. We've got to be making sure we're monitoring these guys academically. The ball's going to stop bouncing one day. Are they going to be on track to graduate? When you look at guys that transfer 2 and 3 times, to different universities, what's their academic standard look like for them being able to graduate? They're not going to get all this money. There's a short amount of time that these kids are going to be able to get the money that they're getting, unless they're one of the 1%ers that go on to play in the NBA. But we just got to make sure the chaos of what college athletics is now, it's got to be taken a look at.
we're kind of talking about it in reference to a top 100 player
Yeah.
or top 50 player or whatever, but there's also the context, which may be a little more positive thing, of a guy that might have been underlooked in high school. We were just talking about a player, that went to a mid-major, and they're kind of thinking, if he does well there, then he can go to a big time and get bigger NIL. So in that way, it can be positive even for players who aren't at the highest level.
Yeah, and you see that now. I mean, you see guys dropping down a level, to be able to play, and they play well, and it's, they go and get compensated really well and are able to play in the Power Four. And that's the way some of the mid-major coaches are recruiting. Hey, come here for a year or two and we'll help you go get paid and get to the Power Four level. So there's bonuses to it, but there's also, man, there's a lot of weird stuff going on that people don't even know behind the scenes, man. It's just with agents now and the pressure that they have, everything's about the dollar and money, and it gets in the way at times.
See, Jalen's smart. He's just letting you talk about all this stuff. But you going through that, I mean, you don't know any different. This is what your recruiting life has been like. Does it add more stress, kind of this element we're talking about?
I mean, no. Kind of yes and no. I mean, you got, 22 and 23-year-olds that you're kind of competing with, trying to just get a spot, on a team. But I think that's just like where the relationship part came in for me, just building a relationship with Coach Lutz and, the rest of the staff, and, how they see me coming in and, impacting the team from day one was, a big factor for me.
Now, putting all this stuff aside, you've still got a senior season in high school. It's about to start up. What are your personal goals? What are your team goals for your senior year at OSU?
Just to win a state championship. That's really the only thing on my mind right now. I think, I've been blessed to really receive a lot of awards in the state of Oklahoma, like Gatorade Player of the Year, Tulsa World Player of the Year. So I think just winning a state championship is the only thing on my mind, and then all the other stuff will come with it if I just continue what I do.
And you had a taste of a state title, and then you guys came up short last season.
Yeah.
Does that add fuel to the fire?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think, this is our, last time that I'll really get to play with my best friends. This is the last time that I'll really get to play basketball before, it kind of turns into a business or a job for me. So I'm just going to try and enjoy it to the best that I can, but obviously kind of still have that competitive edge and, feel with the chip on my shoulder, definitely.
So this is going to be, Brian, your last season coaching him. It's going to be your last season interacting with him during a game from the sideline. You're about to go and start watching him in the stands. Have you kind of processed that change yet?
I have. I'm ready to be dad. I'm just ready to be dad. No, it's been unbelievable. Like, a lot of people don't get the opportunity to coach your son, and especially to the level that Jalen's played and our team has played. And it's not just him, man. It's the other guys in this team. I've been around these guys since they were in third or fourth grade. Bowden's going to ORU. MJ Milton's going to have a big year for us this year. Shake Milton's little brother. Cohen Scott, he's going to play a huge role. Julius Wilson, Crew Byerly. All these guys have been the cool thing about this story is, like, Jalen's had an opportunity, and I've been told I've been a fool to keep him in Owasso. He should go on to the prep school and everything else. It's never been about, him moving or doing any of that stuff. He's wanted to play with his best friends. And that's the cool thing, is watching these guys interact every day. And I tell these guys this all the time. My best friends in high school were my teammates that I still talk to this day. We went on vacation with one of them this summer. So, to see these guys have these relationships that I feel like will be long-lasting relationships is more important than anything, any gold ball or anything, that we're trying to chase. It's been something really cool to witness and watch, because there's not a lot of that going around right now, even at the high school level. Guys are jumping around, being told things and transfer and everything else. We've got something really cool in Owasso, where there are Owasso guys that have had friendships since third grade. So that's been a special deal.
It's interesting to hear your dad talk about that, because, we just talked about you weren't trying not to think about NIL money. That's not why you made your decision about where you went to OSU. You take a look at a lot of these big-time high school recruits. They go off to an academy where there might be 3 or 4, NBA-type prospects who didn't even know each other before they played there. So it kind of seems like a theme for how you've developed your basketball career. Is that something that's been important to you?
Yeah, I think just like the loyalty aspect of things. Like, I've been really with one AAU team, MoKan. I've been with one high school team, Owasso. So It's just like kind of been built into me to, kind of just stick with the process and, not jump ship anywhere and just, stay true to my roots, which is a big thing for me.
And for OSU fans, what do you want them to think of when what kind of player you're going to be for them in Stillwater?
Yeah, I'm gonna be, just a, guy that brings in, a winning mindset from day one. I think Oklahoma State deserves to belong in the NCAA tournament, every single year. I think it's a basketball school, so just trying to, bring that energy back to Stillwater and, kind of rebuild the program up with Coach Lutz and, help him build it back to one of the, top teams nationally. It's going to be really fun.
All right, a couple fun questions. We talked about it a little bit. If you guys played a game of 1-on-1 to 21, what's the score, Jalen?
21-0. He loses by forfeit.
I know his weaknesses, and he can't take my fouls.
There you go. But you're not predicting you would win, though, right?
Oh yeah, I would definitely win.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to tackle him.
Yeah, he would get tired of me fouling him.
It's all right, 21-0, and you're probably 21-20.
Yeah, I'd say it would be a close one.
Yeah, not win by 2 here.
Conditioning may come in. Conditioning and maybe an injury or two may come into factor.
Do you guys talk about anything besides basketball, or is it basketball all the time with you guys?
Yeah, we talk about, other things.
I beat him on the video games.
He does not beat me in games. But anytime there's like a UFC fight, like I'll go, we'll watch it together. We just talk about really anything.
We started golfing. He started golfing. His little brother's 11, so we all went out one day. Little brother never picked up a club, and I was telling Jalen, I'm like, I think by the end of the summer, Kai's going to be better than you.
Yeah.
So we've developed this golf thing in our family, which has been fun. And that's the thing. Like I've tried to tell him, it's basketball. Basketball is very important to us. It's done a lot for myself, and I think he's starting to understand what it can do for him in his future. It's not the only thing, but we try to do other things. Like we'll go fishing in our pond by our house, or just letting him be a kid and hanging out. That's the importance of trying to get away from the game and not just make it about basketball all the time.
Yeah, it's always fun when you see a 6'10" guy playing golf out there.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's really tough.
Favorite OSU memory for each of you?
Oh, that's tough. Probably kind of recent. I remember when Cade Cunningham was there. He had a 40-point game against OU at Lloyd Noble, so that was definitely a cool moment. But I think there's so many. I remember all the football Bedlam games. I remember, a lot of stuff, but I'll probably go with the Cade Cunningham one for sure.
Mine would have probably been, I was in Italy at the time playing when they got back to the Final Four, when Coach got back to the Final Four. After the plane crash, we had graduated, the plane crash. To see him get OSU back to the Final Four, that was a pretty cool, special moment. Even though that I was far away watching, I remember talking to him that night after the game, and it was really cool to see us get back to the Final Four.
And probably more emotional than a normal Final Four trip because you had that recovery of the program and of the people from after the plane crash.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, like Jalen knows this. He's, January 26th is a important day for all of us. It's a day that we'll never forget. And that's a lot of the loyalty. Like our alma mater says, loyal and true. There's a true foundation to that. There's not anything about that program that he doesn't know or understand. And to hopefully see him be able to experience that and grow with the program as the program hopefully turns the corner will be the ultimate cool dad moment for and not just me, but for our family.
And then I end all the podcasts with, I like to ask the guest what's been on their mind a lot lately. What's one thing they've been thinking about a lot? I mean, my podcast is called One More Thing, but we can change the topic. It can be a movie that's coming out. It can be a senior season, or it can be a senior school year, what you're thinking about. What's one thing that's been occupying your mind a lot lately?
I think just recently, the thought of me playing at Oklahoma State, I really can't wait. I'm really excited to get down there and, start practice and, play games in an Oklahoma State uniform. That's probably just the thing that's been on my mind most lately.
Mine, is what in the heck am I going to do next spring and summer when I'm not traveling all over the country and I get my weekends at home?
I know. I'm buddies with your dads, and I'm always trying to, hey, what are you doing this week? I'm in Kansas or I'm in Arizona. It's like, all right, well, we'll see you in a couple of years.
So that's the one thing is like, what am I going to do with my weekends now? No, but it's been awesome, man. It's been, I can't believe he's a senior. It's been an awesome journey, and we're extremely proud of him. This has been his story, his race. We're excited to see what happens down in Stillwater with him.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you both coming on.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks again to Jalen and Brian Montonati for joining me. It's fun to see the next chapter of Oklahoma State basketball taking shape and to hear how father and son are navigating this unique journey together. If you enjoyed this episode of One More Thing, especially you OSU and Owasso sports fans out there, please follow the podcast and share it with a friend. I'll see you next week.